Okay, there we go. Now we are on. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Equine Episode Examination, where today we will be discussing the first half, and quotation marks since I guess only 12 episodes, but the first half of MLP Season 6 that is shown so far. So this is going to be a little bit different from our normal Triple E episodes. It'll be just like we've had in the past. We're just going to kind of discuss the episode. Discuss the season, all the episodes in the season. We're not going to really focus on one episode, and we're not going to go by categories or anything that we have. I'm just pretty much just going to discuss it. We're going to have. I'll be having some. I have some questions prepared that we can all discuss with. And I also want to do something a little different this time. If I have some questions prepared, and I'm sure some others here on the voice call will have questions. But I'd like to also make sure we're getting any questions that you want, that all of you in the chat might have and want to ask us or the rest, everyone else in chat, maybe specific questions about the seasons or character or what we thought of something. So if you want to do that, I want you to post the questions in... Let me see if I can get it to complete. There we go. This room here, which is my my personal IRC room here on Pony Chat. So if you just double click on that, it'll open up a new chat tab. And if you have any questions that you want us to ask here on stream, that we can kind of get everyone's opinion, all of our opinions, and all of your opinions on, please post them there. I'm only doing that just because if you post it if you have a question that you want to ask everyone about the season, and you post it in the main chat, it's going to get lost really quick. So this will kind of help us stay a little bit on topic, and then we'll just kind of go through that and read out any questions that anyone wants to have. Like I said, I have a few here prepared, so we'll probably go on some tangents and then go back and ask some questions as we need stuff to discuss about. So that's just kind of how this is going to operate, see how it goes. And I'm Rain Shadow, and I'm joined by three others here today. They want to introduce themselves.
I'm munching on crisps.
I'm walking on sunshine.
I'm still having mic problems.
Can you feel the sunshine? Does it brighten up your day?
I've had enough Sanic today.
No, you can never have enough Sanic.
What do you mean? Did you do some Sonic related while I was gone?
No, we were discussing backstage about how Mighty Number 9 was kind of coming out to mediocre stuff, and how Sonic was making fun of him.
Oh yeah, I just saw that. Oh yeah, I saw that.
That was great.
Speaking of Mighty Number 9, we'll get to that when we announce our stuff for tonight.
So Mighty Number 9 is a Mighty Number 2.
Sonic should have posted that. Anyway, before we completely derail the conversation right here at the beginning, let's go ahead and just start our discussion on the first 12 episodes of Season 6. So, any initial thoughts from anyone before we jump in on the season so far?
Just when I think that the season couldn't possibly top itself, that's when Pony just is coming out with something new and something awesome. And I'm thinking, there's no way that they can, top themselves. They shut me up next week. And it's no, always.
How many times have you said that already? It's like
more times than I could probably count.
Yeah.
You're probably going to hear this as a surprise from me, but honestly, I think I had a stronger... I'm not going to say it's necessarily worse, but I think I had a stronger reaction to the first half of Season 5 than I did the first half of this season. I'm not saying that the episodes are bad in any way. They're not. Some of them are outstanding. But, I don't know, it just seems to be just missing something that the first half of Season 5, I think, had. I mean, it depends if you're comparing the first 12 episodes of Season 5 or the first 13. I mean, that's the first thing. I suppose, really, it would only be fair for me to compare the first 12 with the first 12 here. But, But I don't know. I will say this: the quality of the show is certainly not diminished with season 6. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, or it's just
Well, I think
but-
you also have to consider kind of the types of episodes that were kind of
yeah.
fronted
I mean,
in last season in between
it was a much
episode
more
100.
front-loaded season.
Well, I mean, I guess what I'm
Right.
saying is in terms of episode 100 and Do Princess Dream and Magic Sheep, it had a lot of really out there, crazy fans kind of service episodes that were really exciting, but you really can't do again.
Was Crusaders of the Last Mark?
No, that was this later in the second half of the season.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that myself. But from what I understand, first half of season 5 also had like a lot of more groundbreaking, episodes that really wasn't present in like the first 4, and we didn't really see that much here in the first half of season 6 in terms of like stuff that was just like total game changers, if you will, like the cutie map or anything.
It's kind of harder to really compare sort of fairly, because really and truthfully you should probably compare a full season to a full season rather than sort of 12 13 episodes to 12 13 episodes. It's why I always find season 3 kind of a difficult season to pigeonhole, because it being half length to all the other seasons kind of makes it a little unfair to sort of try and compare it fully with like other seasons, because it only obviously got half the amount of sort of time to basically sort of establish an arc and whatever.
I mean, I looking at the actual 13 list of the first 13 episodes or 12 episodes or whatever, I personally I think it's on par, even though it kind of feels otherwise, and it's hard to tell if that's just because we kind of inadvertently look at season 5 as a whole, just because it's over, and we know it, so it makes it a little harder to compare, or just because some of the really good episodes were really, really good or out there, like Slice of Life or Do Princesses Dream Magic Sheep or Mending Fences, and we have episodes like that. But really, you look at some of the other episodes, I really think that there's more episodes, and this is hard to say because so much time has passed between season 5 and me looking at season 5 and season 6, but I do think there's more episodes maybe that kind of fade to the past to me so far in the first half of season 5. I mean,
Sorry about that.
I think one of the main things to remember with season 5, a lot of sort of mainstay writers have either sort of finished up or are sort of on hiatus from writing on the show. I mean, obviously the two most obviously notable being Amy Keaton-Rogers and M.A. Larson. Obviously, Mending Fences, M.A. Larson has come out and said was the episode that he's always wanted to write for the show. So, and you can kind of tell with the sort of the quality in that episode, and Amy obviously hit the ball out the park, sort of with pretty much all her episodes in season 5. But season 6, like I say, it's not like the quality of the episodes are bad at all. I think the only episode I would say wasn't necessarily like at the very top, tippity top, was probably On
Your Marks.
The episode. Sorry.
On Your Marks.
Yes. Not because it was a bad episode. It was just because it was a fairly forgettable episode. I wouldn't say, it's a bit like, what's the one with Apple Bloom, basically? The Cutie Pox. There's nothing wrong with that episode at all, but we don't really learn a great deal. And, it doesn't really necessarily push things forward that much. I'm not saying it doesn't do anything at all, and I'd say it probably does slightly more than the Cutie Pox, but we don't really learn anything new. We don't really... I mean, you can sort of see glimmers of what they're going to do with the CMC in future now that they've got their cutie marks, but we don't see a whole lot of that in On Your Marks. We sort of see necessarily sort of like the beginnings of that, but nothing major. I mean, the story was more as much as Apple Bloom's story than it was really a CMC story, which, is fine. I'm not got anything wrong with that, don't get me wrong. I will say that the CMC stories do seem to be a bit weighted towards Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle more than Scootaloo, but, what can you do? There's only so much you can write about a chicken, I suppose.
personally, I mean, looking back at I'm just looking through this episode list, and I'm gonna personally put it on the same level. I don't think season 6 has the first 13 episodes of season or 12 episodes in season 6 are overall better or worse than the first of season 5. I think the thing is,
their individual quality is what I'm trying to say.
Because I think is the only difference that I can see personally with me is just some of the bigger episodes of the first half of season 5 carry a lot more weight than the bigger episodes of season 6 so far. Again, I guess for the reasons I've already.
Season 6's fault necessarily. That's
no. Don't get me wrong. I'm just
100, fall in episode 5 was to episode, in season 5, was to season 5's advantage. But that's not season 6's fault. But that's not to say that there's been an excellent Christmas episode in season 6. Although you can question the wisdom of showing that in premiering that in May all you want. I mean, that is something that I do perhaps want to touch on at some point, is Discovery Family sort of handling of how episodes are shown and necessarily, I wouldn't say necessarily advertised. I think things have improved from season 5, and I think that's a lot to do with the fact that Discovery Family is obviously still trying to find its feet in that regard. Problem with Discovery Family is the channel, the lineup on that channel is not great. I mean, a lot of the stuff that was on during the daytime that was sort of excellent has either been pared back, or they've just been repeating a lot of the same stuff. So if you like ponies, if you like Littlest Pet Shop, and if you like Transformers Rescue Bots, then you'll like Discovery Family, because that's pretty much what they show most of the time during the day now. And I've just lost everyone.
I'm just watching the chat too. So,
but I mean, I would say sort of my favourite episodes. It's kind of difficult to say really, because there's not been an episode I've hated or disliked or even thought was mediocre. I wouldn't even say On Your Marks was mediocre. I would just say that it was a little forgettable, which that's not the worst thing in the world to be. I'd rather it be forgettable but enjoyable to watch at the time than be something that was memorable but for all the wrong reasons, if you know what I mean.
So
I would rather have one or two episodes be forgettable but enjoyable at the time than an episode that I genuinely disliked, Rainbow Falls, which I know not everyone dislikes that episode, but I'm just giving it as an example of how I feel about an episode.
So I guess
I don't think I've really had an episode I've hated since that one, so that's pretty good going.
So I guess the first question I'm gonna ask everyone is what was everyone's favorite episode of the season? What does everyone think that their overall favorite episode would be if you had to pick one? I know that's a hard thing to do, but if you really had an episode that stands out the most, or you enjoyed the most, or maybe a couple episodes you enjoyed the most for different reasons, kind of what one sticks out to you the most?
Oh man,
Gauntlet of Fire.
Oh yeah.
Because first of all, we get to go to a new place, and second of all, we get to learn a lot more about dragons that we've not actually been able to really do for quite some time. And it's an episode that I think dealt with Spike absolutely superbly. And it's also an example of one of the newer writers on the show really having a great grasp of the characters in the show, which, to be honest, is a theme of season 6. There's a lot of new writers, or writers that are fairly inexperienced to the show, in comparison, and I think that a lot of them have pretty much nailed the characters. I mean, it's actually quite impressive, really.
For me personally, I would say my favorite episode in terms of overall enjoyability and just how impressive it was and the amount of effort that was obviously put into it and the payoff of it, I think would probably be Heartwarming Tale for me. Just because that episode, just as a whole, was just so well made and so well produced. It is really something something special, I think, and I really enjoyed that one. And then on the other hand, I also think in terms of humor, my favorite episode, humor and episode structure, I would say, my favorite episode in those terms would probably be Saddle Row and Wreck, or the Saddle Row and Row review,
Saddle Row review.
which I think is hands down the funniest episode of the season.
Yeah,
Probably
same.
one of the funniest episodes of the show. It's definitely up there with Make New Friends But Keep Discord
Yeah.
for humour. In fact, I think it might even be funnier than that episode because it's much more consistent with its laughs. Whereas I think
non-stop.
Make New Friends has some absolutely laugh out loud moments. I would say perhaps the Saddle Row review was a lot more consistent with its laughs, and it does a lot more with just more than a couple of characters. It sort of does it with everyone. Also, I still love the interactions between Rainbow and Applejack in that episode.
Oh yes.
I would not
just-
be upset if we got another Rainbow and Applejack episode fully, a proper episode with the two.
That'd be great. Poor Ashley Ball. So what about everyone else? Favorite episode?
You have to go with Sour Review 2 for, like you said, that was such a clever, the clever non-linear structure of the storytelling and the jokes. That was a solid episode.
Mr. Ben, did you have any? Is Mr. Ben still there? With a real Mr. Ben, please stand up. I think we might have lost Mr. Ben.
His mic is muted.
Don't know why it muted like that. Okay.
Go ahead.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. As I was about to say, what happened was, I want to say that my favorite one is pretty much the same as everyone else, kind of like a cross between Gauntlet of Fire and Heartswarming Tale. But I'm also loving Saddle Row Review as well for the same reasons, that it was just so funny. The interactions between everyone was just great.
Swept me away.
I want to say that there's also a lot of stuff that were really good in Newbie Dash with Dash just taking Dash's impersonations of her friends was probably like my favorite part of that particular episode. But then we got like other stuff where just like little things where on your marks we had like the tap dancing one who basically just danced everywhere he went. Gift of Mod Pie, where we finally got like I think still one of the best little memes of the season thus far with Rareball. And then we got Spice Up Your Life, where we had I want to say one of my favorite designs of a supporting character thus far with Saffron Masala. Just one of the things that I just happen to love so much about that.
That's something that I do want to touch on when we perhaps talk about how the animation has changed for this season. But that is something I do like with the art style now, is that the ponies do have genuinely distinctive looks. They're definitely not recolors like they used to be in G3. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, or even just the first couple seasons of the show. I mean, especially it's even more. It's happened more and more. It's happened more and more since then. And this season, it's really really notice it. Yeah.
To say, I also like to say that I really liked the return of Trixie. On No Second Prances, that screenshot where we had Twilight just sort of forcibly smiling at Trixie, that is sort of just that grin, that screenshot where the both of them were just sort of mirroring that same smile at each other. It's like, yeah, that screenshot just can't be taken out of context at all. I don't really have any real particular favorite, to be honest, though. It's just everything is just so. Every episode had something to love about it.
No, it's something that we haven't really talked anything about, and it's amazing how many people don't talk about it. The opening two-parter, which is a shame because in some respects there are some things I like about that episode very much, which I like the way that Spike is handled in that episode. I like how it's, obviously most of the time we always get like a follow-up from the previous season, and obviously that's what the case is here. But I will say, I think the conflict in the opening two-parter was a little weaker than it has been in other two-parters or sort of more adventurous episodes. I'm not saying that it's terrible. I just think that perhaps it weren't. It's funny that I actually think what you would perhaps call the B story, or the second sort of, the other story with Starlight, obviously, rekindling back to her childhood with one of her childhood friends, was, I think, a much more cohesive story than Flurry Heart.
The thing, I wouldn't say that was the B story. I would say Flurry Heart was the B story of it. I really that episode was really meant to focus on Starlight, because the whole point of the episode is exploring Starlight.
I think the Flurry Heart things was. I wouldn't say it was, like I said, I wouldn't say it was terrible, but I would say that the stuff with Starlight was considerably better. And what I like about it, and a lot of people have, because I think one of the biggest complaints for season 5 was the supposedly quick redemption of Starlight. Now, whether you believe that was done either too quickly or not, or it shouldn't have been done at all, or regardless, what I like about what they're going to do with that is that they're going to then flesh out as to why they've been fleshing out as to why she acted like she did, and why she has these issues in the first place, and what they're now doing to try and help her along a path that's going to make her, because I wouldn't call her redeemed at all. I would say that she has seen the light, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to necessarily stray on that path all the time. There is going to be deviation. We see that from Discord in the episode since his quote unquote reformation. I don't think, a lot of people seem to think it's like a light switch where they're either evil or they're not, or they're mischievous or they're kind-hearted. They can never be more than one thing, which with these characters being as deep as they are and as more complex than a lot of previous generations of MLP have been. I mean, Bon Bon was a klutz. That's all you can remember of her from My Little Pony Tales. Whereas here, you could say, well, Fluttershy is shy. Yes, she's shy, but she also has frustrations of people. She can get quite emotional with things. She can lash out at times. It's not just one thing with these characters. It's a combination of things, and I think that's what they're trying to do with Starlight. And I think you've got to give it time. You can't just say that she's changed to be reformed and that's going to stay like that all the time. There's no complete constant with this show, and I think some people seem to forget that, which does frustrate me at times.
And we still got a whole half season to see what they do with Starlight.
But it's not just necessarily a half season. She's probably going to be in and out of the show, much like Discord is. From now onwards, and there's going to be a lot more layers added to her as time goes on.
Well, actually, that's what I meant by half season. We still got another 13 go. That's what I meant by other half.
Yeah.
I didn't mean this half. I mean the next half.
Yeah.
I would say with the season, I really liked the season opener of this, and it's I think there's other better episodes in the season for it, which is why I didn't say it was my favorite. But I really liked how they did something different. It wasn't the same thing. It wasn't some sort of big baddie, external conflict that they were trying to defeat. So it isn't going to be on par with like the season 4 finale in that respect. But it was a lot more of a psychological and emotional and friendship kind of deal in terms of the main conflict with that between Starlight and kind of finding herself and rekindling her friendship with Sunburst, And I just loved how that had like two concurring stories where you had this really this nice character exploration with Starlight on one hand, and then you have the this conflict with Flurryhard adds some nice comic relief. Like I said on our review of that episode, I think it was one of the funniest actual like two-parters. We're not used to having really that much humor in the two-part episodes, so that kind of balanced out. But I like just how both of those separate stories come together at the end. And both of those things wind up solving each other's problems of each of those things for it. So like both of those problems in the episode wind up solving each other in the end. And I really like that layout. And I really think it's just I really consider it one of the stronger two-parters, and just one of the better ones just in terms of actually taking the risk of trying something different and straying from the two-parter action-packed formula that we normally get from two-parter episodes.
Could well be the first episode where the problem is not necessarily solved by any of the main six as well in a two-parter.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is more solved by sort of Starlight, Spike, and Starlight and I can't think his bloody name.
Sunburst.
Sunburst. Yes.
Well, I will say, remember the season 5 premiere where the town ponies were actually kind of the ones that wound up kind of defeating the villain in that one too. So that one sort of had that as well.
It was normally that, and it was a little bit of sort of Fluttershy helping out as well. It was sort of a little column A, a little column B with that one. But yeah, I see where you mean there. The thing was people were shown that to find the right path, but they had to walk it, sort of thing.
And I also, just running on what you said there, just how the episode really didn't focus on the main six at all, and they were in the episode, but I mean it was a lot more focused on Starlight and on Sunburst, which is unusual. It's pretty much the first two-parter episode that we've had that wasn't focused on Twilight or the main or the main six. I mean, probably even the season 5 premiere wasn't focused as much on Twilight either, but this one's too was just like nothing. Even with Starlight getting top billing in the voice credits at the end.
That one was Tiffany Fluttershy though. She had a lot more in that episode than a lot of her own episodes actually. Funnily enough.
I'm not sure what the chat is discussing, but I'm not being able to follow it. Oops, let me get back to this. So, building on the last question I asked, what would everyone consider their least favorite episode? Or not necessarily worst or even least favorite, but maybe most forgettable episode of all.
All's well that ends well. Oh wait, you were talking about season 6. I don't really have a least favorite on that one. I suppose maybe the most forgettable would probably be the two-parter opening. But that's pretty much the only real reason I could think of, is pretty much just the same reasons we discussed. The crystalling does seem to be kind of the most, in a way, just seems to be kind of the weakest of the season openings, aside from maybe the very first one. But that's season 1's opening kind of gets a pass because that's the very first that's the opening of the entire series. But other than that, I suppose maybe the only real episode I could say that's probably the weakest out of everyone would maybe be On Your Marks, and that's the only way I could think of.
Really, I don't know. I totally disagree with everyone thinking that. I really love the opener for this one. I definitely think there was.
I wouldn't put the opener as my. Like I say, I would say it's on. I've already sort of gone through my reasonings, but yeah, I would say On Your Marks, but not because the episode's necessarily bad. I think the problem On Your Marks had was Crusaders of the Lost Mark, Lost Mark. Because that episode was so fantastic and such a game changer that the follow-up was going to really struggle to meet that kind of level. And I think anyone that was expecting it to be as good or better than that episode was, don't get me wrong, having lofty aspirations for every episode of this show is not a bad thing. But if you put the show on such a high pedestal at every point and turn, you're going to get disappointed at some point, because no show can maintain that level of quality for every single episode. It's just not possible. I don't think I can think of a show off the top of my head that can do that. Not even like my favorite shows of all time, like Futurama. Futurama has some absolutely terrible episodes I absolutely hate. Hell, there's a whole movie I hated of that. But that's not to say as a show I still don't adore it. I do, but I think that's perhaps the thing with On Your Marks. It's so much more low key than Crusades of the Lost Mark that's probably why it gets a lot more lost than perhaps it would do otherwise. But there's not much to me that really stood out. Even the new character in it, I couldn't even name you him, and all I know about him is that he enjoys tap dancing, and that's about it.
I would say that my most forgettable it seems like it's pretty much most everyone agrees on this one would be On Your Marks too, which sucks. I actually really enjoyed the episode for a lot of reasons, and I mean I liked it because it was like the first episode where we didn't even have any of the main six in it at all, not even like a cameo appearance. I liked the focus on the CMC. It had a lot of other things going for it. But it wasn't a bad episode. It was kind of drowned out by a lot of the other ones, and it's the one I wind up remembering last out of all the other ones. It had some important things it had to do, which I think kind of held it back. It had to set up the future CMC episodes because, of course, Crusaders of the Lost Mark had a lot of stuff that it had to get through, and it kind of ended pretty quickly on them, getting their cutie marks in that final song, and then the episode was over. So this episode kind of had to be the follow-up. It had to be the epilogue to that episode. It had to continue setting up where the CMC are going to go from here. How is the show going to handle the CMC going forward in terms of, their episodes are they going to be focused more individually now? Or are they still going to be focused together as the CMC? And it had to explore a lot of that stuff. So it's kind of like how a lot of people always say sometimes the middle movie kind of is sometimes the worst, or because it's taking you from movie 1 to movie 3, and that's kind of all it does. And that's kind of what On Your Marks is. I wouldn't say it's personally, I wouldn't consider it forgettable because it's in the shadow of the previous CBC episode, Crusaders of the Lost Mark, but it's just that it's bridging that episode to the future CMC episodes that we'll probably be getting in the second half of the season. So it's kind of acting that bridge. So I think it does it well, but a lot of times those kind of things that bridge two things, they do become a little forgettable going on because it's just trying to set up things for the future. And I see some people saying Applejack's Day Off, and I can understand why others would say that too. The only reason I won't say that is because I love Applejack. I found that episode to be very enjoyable for a lot of reasons, but I could understand why other people might consider it, the most forgettable of the season, because it was a little bit, even more than On Your Marks. It was more subdued. It was a lot more of a traditional kind of slice of life episode where nothing really important to the series as a whole happens. It just kind of explores Applejack's and Rarity's kind of character relationship. So there's a lot of stuff personally that I liked about that episode, so I don't consider it to be my most forgettable, but I can totally understand why others might.
The whole thing about On Your Marks, at very least, it kind of set up the fact that, the potential of future CMC episodes that we may have, Apple Bloom, Scootaloo, and Sweetie all branching off, doing their own little thing.
Yeah, I mean...
Instead of being together all the time, there we go, I got cut off.
Yeah. And that's kind of like what it's setting up for future episodes, where maybe we might get some more individual CMC episodes for each of them individually rather than them being as a group, which I definitely look forward to. So this one kind of had to set up all that as well as kind of be an Apple Bloom focused episode at the same time, so had a lot to balance.
Let's see, I would have to admit, other than what I mentioned before on Crystaling and On Your Marks, I would have to say Applejack's Day Off is probably being one of the weaker episodes. But I have to admit, like I said, there's been at least one part of each of the episodes I like. So I really can't honestly say which one would have to be the weakest of all of them. I happen to like them all.
There's really nothing critically about any of the episodes I could say insanely negatively. There's nothing really I dislike about any of the episodes so far this season critically. It's just purely on, for me, I'm just talking purely on an emotional, scale, or how much you kind of remember it.
What I will say with Newbie Dash is that it makes me hate Rainbow Falls all the more, because what Newbie Dash does is paint the Wonderbolts in a light that makes them seem like they're quite hard to sort of necessarily get along with, but they're shown to show why they are like they are a lot better. Whereas in Rainbow Falls, I just honestly felt they were like the worst place that you would want someone like Rainbow to be involved with. And I know I'm going to be fairly alone on that sort of view. I know there are others that that agree and disagree and blah blah blah. But what I will say is Newbie Dash made me have a better appreciation for the Wonderbolts, and in that regard, I think the episode was great. A lot of people found the episode, and I hate this term, cringy, which I'm saying in massive air quotations here, but I didn't really feel that. And it's funny that one of the things that Ben liked the most about the show was supposedly the most cringiest part of the episode, which honestly I thought was like the most impressive part of the episode, showing off Ashley Ball's repartee. But what do I know?
Oh yeah, that was like one of the funniest bits of the episode to me too.
Honestly, I think the only thing funnier than that part of the episode was the reaction of people on discussion forums and that, hating it so much. I was like, really? That's the thing. That's the hill you're gonna die on. That you hate about the show. It's like, really? There's considerably worse things that have been done in the show than that, And I'm not saying
if that's what you're hating most about the episode, then it must have been a pretty damn good episode.
Yeah, exactly.
How about just a little more general? We kind of already touched on this a little bit, but just any favorite moments from the season so far? Just anything that you just think of, and a specific moment that just jumps out at you when you think of it. Sound like Mr. Ben was taking a breath to say something there, but I don't know.
Well,
okay.
I'm trying
That's
to.
what I was
think,
waiting for.
Really.
Okay.
It's just I was gonna say something, but then I paused and I'm trying to think of something here. There's a bunch that really just kind of play out. I'm thinking back mainly to Flutterbrudder, mainly because I'm thinking back to Zephyr Breeze and just the fact that I totally knew people exactly like him, and I'm like, just
I think that's the thing that's going to take away from my body moments is actually get to see one of the main six's family. We've never seen Fluttershy's brother or her mother and father, and we get to see all of them in an episode. And I'll admit, I made sure to not watch spoilers so I could squeal them all.
Yeah, I thought that's pretty much what my what I think on my thing on your marks is. I mean, I don't hate it, I don't dislike it, but it's just sometimes it's the last one to come to my mind when I'm thinking of it. For me, favorite moments. I just being a very musical person myself. I would say just the songs from this season's musical episode in A Hearthwarming Tale definitely stick out to me the most, especially just like Pinky's song and of course Luna's number, and that are just some of the highlights of the season so far for me.
Say favorite episodes, I just have a lot of them, really. Favorite episodes let's see, going down the list here, we got the Crystalling, where we've got like just Sunburst just basically being a dork, basically. We've got Gift of the Mod Pie, we got Rareball, obviously. We've got on your marks basically just being like little things like the watching the tap dancing pony just tap dances way off screen while looking all forlorn and stuff. Gauntlet of Fire, just whole episode, just hands down on that one. No Second Prance is the one with, like I said, the grinning screenshot between Twilight and Trixie. Newbie Dash just imitating all of her friends. Heartwarming Tale, just Luna on that one. I'm just gonna say that one. Saddle Row review. We've got favorite episodes or favorite parts of that one is just the sweep song. We've got all that stuff going back to the diner, whatchamacallit, where when Pinky like reaches over and grabs like a bunch of pancakes and it turns out there's like a bunch, like another clone like right there that somehow escaped the mirror pond or something like that. Applejack's Day Off, just Applejack just going through that whole convoluted mess of trying to feed the pigs, including acting like a chicken.
But you...
Yeah, acting like a scootaloo, yeah. Flutterbrother, I can't really think of a whole lot of stuff on favorite parts. I guess maybe he's ever getting his comeuppance and just Dash zapping his ass like several times. And then Spice Up Your Life, we just got like...
You don't mention Zephyr coming on to Rainbow. Come on.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one, yeah. And then like favorite parts of Spice Up Your Life, we've got again just Saffron Masala, Return of Piggy Pie, but just other stuff I can't really think of off the top of my head.
Really, I three other things that I think are favorite. I think are favorite is just the again the humor in Saddle Row and Wreck, as well as just the kind of the story layout of that was just so different for this show, and I really enjoyed that. Character wise, I really liked what they've done with Starlight, and I really liked Sunburst and the opener too. I really liked his character, and his voice acting was really good. So I hope we see more of him, because I did really like his character and kind of his mini arc that he goes through in that premiere.
The other thing I like is it'll be interesting to see if they emphasize any more on this friendship dynamic between Starlight and Trixie. I really want to see where that goes. Because that's of all the ponies to get her to be friends with, first of all, it's interesting that they chose Trixie. I do find that quite I wouldn't say unusual. I'm not surprised they used it, because in some regards, there's some slight sort of similarities in them being sort of characters that have got sort of a dodgy past. So and they're sort of trying to make their way, trying to not necessarily right their wrongs, but try to make put the past behind them and try and move forward. And it's interesting to see how that's going to work with both characters. And I think. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I think I mentioned this when we were talking about that episode back. Gosh, it's been that long already. Back then, as I really think Trixie was just the perfect kind of character, and I think that they had a story they wanted to tell in terms of Starlight getting a friend, and what's the worst kind of friend that she could get that Twilight wouldn't like. And out of all the characters we've seen in the show before, Trixie would definitely be the one that Twilight would be the most opposed to her having. And that was kind of like the crux of that story was getting that conflict between Starlight and Twilight. And I think Trixie was just the perfect kind of fit that like a T, not just like how you said, where she has a lot of relatable things to Starlight, but also just because how is the best one to get Twilight to really have some sort of conflict there. Let's see. How does everyone think the season theme has been utilized. How well compared to the season's theme for season 5 for this season versus last season.
This is a similar sort of thing I was talking to you, Rain, not that long ago, actually. I'm not even really sure. I think I will say about season 6 is that the theme seems sort of a bit muddled, a little confused. I think the theme, obviously, the theme of the toys at the moment, I believe, is Explore Equestria.
Correct.
Right?
That's the season theme. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, when people heard that was going to be the theme for this season, a lot of people were expecting the ponies to branch away from Ponyville and go to a lot of different places. That's not necessarily been the case. But I think what it is we've explored new areas areas necessarily been to before, but not necessarily. I mean, for example, in Ponyville, we've seen a lot more of the spa. I mean, the spa has like become like the TARDIS for some reason. It's like enormous inside.
Or Applejack's chicken coop.
That's a real TARDIS. I'm now convinced that that's how Doctor Who's is in this universe now. He came via his TARDIS morphed into a chicken coop and landed in Applejack's farm.
Yeah. I was about to shout. The joke is because Doctor Who's is the construction architect for a bunch of Ponyville. That's why everything's TARDIS-like. The thing is with the theme, I think it's like I said to Randy, I think it's more bits and bobs. It's a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of something else. I mean, we've had one cutie map episode. We've had like a follow-up to Starlight's what happened at the during season 5. We've obviously had that as a theme. We've had a lot of I would say a lot of sort of more development of a few characters, moving on towards their goals in life. We've had Rainbow Dash now actually becoming a fully fledged Wonder Bowl. We've got Rarity opening new stores, another new store in Equestria with obviously the opening of the store in Manhattan. So yeah, I mean, I was going to say.
Interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to add on to what you were saying with they've explored the dragon race a little bit more.
Yeah, see, that was like the only real
the most exploration we've had.
Yeah, that was like the only new thing that we've actually had was the exploration of the Dragonlands. I mean, other than that was.
Ben, I wouldn't say that's not the only new thing. I mean, we've had, it's like in Spice Up Your Life, we've had new ponies from a new part of Equestria. May not necessarily be that part of Equestria, but we've seen what they're. You might as just call it Indian ponies. We've seen like an Indian pony culture be shown off in.
Didn't they also have like those two other ponies that said that they were from like Winneapolis or something like that?
Yes. But I can understand with Manhattan, you're going to get tourists, so you're going to get ponies from other. It'll be interesting if we end up going to Saddle Arabia. I want to go to Saddle Arabia, damn it. Although there'll be just a lot of sand, so really and truthfully, you could say we've been there by having that desolate potential future in the season 5 finale.
Due to Starlight's interference, Saddle Arabia takes over all of Equestria.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the theme has this season. It's just a little different than I think what a lot of people expect. A lot of people expected to go and see new things, like we saw the Dragonlands and stuff, but expected more of that. When we still have been exploring Equestria, but we've been expanding upon areas that we've seen before. So we visited Manhattan like 3 times so far this season. We've seen a different area of Manhattan. We've revisited Canterlot and saw a different area there. We've seen more of Ponyville. So we've been exploring Equestria, but not in kind of like the broad, new, faraway lands sense that I think people were expecting kind of after the map episodes last season. Now that the map is back,
they've not keyed that together. It's interesting they've not keyed the map and Explore Equestria together. They've been kind of separate, which I find quite odd. I was expecting the reason why we're having Explore Equestria was almost entirely because of the map.
Well, I think that's kind of was my next point. Is now that the map is back as of the final episode of the half seasons of the
Actually,
mid season
trailers for
here.
the second half of this season.
Yeah, yeah. But now that it's back, I would assume maybe going in the second half of the season, maybe we'll explore more faraway kind of lands as that map calls ponies to different places with friendship problems. So that's what I'm kind of thinking going forward. Heck, even Spike kind of got called, even though it wasn't the map, it was his, like, the dragon vibrator or whatever or whatever the heck he had. But
Thank you for that mental image.
Dragon
welcome.
vibrator. That certainly doesn't sound like a sex toy, no sir.
Not at all. But yeah, hopefully we'll get more. But like last season, the theme was cutie mark magic, and so we had a lot of things that were very specifically related to that, both in the opener and then kind of exploring cutie marks with the CMC leading up to their episode later in the season, as well as other things like when they're doing stuff in the troubleshoot the Trouble Hooves episode, kind of helping him find what his mark is there. And then this season, like it's I think it's more pronounced, but it isn't the same way you're expecting. Like, we're exploring Equestria, but we're not exploring it in like a broad sense. At least not yet. What's everyone's favorite new character in the season so far?
Ooh, well, I've already said Saffron Masala like a number of times here in terms of at least, design and everything like that. I've also really liked Sunburst. I really want to see more of him, especially with interactions with Starlight. What else that we got? I would love to see Princess Ember again. That's a definite one that I want to see again, is Princess Ember. I really love her design. Really love just the fact, playing up the differences between the dragon culture and pony culture. Wouldn't mind seeing some of the other people again, like what do we got here? I guess maybe Rarity's, Miss Pamela again, even though she wasn't really a new character.
Yeah, I'm talking about favorite
I'm gonna just say there then, Plaid Stripes, because spoon.
Yes, I liked her. Zephyr Breeze can just fucking go to hell.
I would say my favorite new character, and there's a lot of like really good. I think that's something this season has been really strong at is introducing good like new characters, even if they're just kind of background characters, and just seeing new ponies throughout the show. But I would think you have Ember and all these other ones that we listed, but really I think my favorite is Sunburst, just because I think he has the most potential for really good new stories going forward. Some of the other characters are really good.
But I also think the same with Princess Ember as well.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they're all open to more stories, but I really like the potential that Sunburst has the most, and the kind of what they've set up. I mean, Ember is really a blank slate, and they can use her for more stories, but with Sunburst, I think there's a lot of potential that they've set up already going forward for him, and of course his relationship kind of with Starlight as well, and this little group that they're building, that they might be building with Starlight and like Trixie and Sunburst and all these friends that she's gaining. So I really would like to see him the most more, and like who said that? Someone said that in chat. It's already scrolled up, but just it's nice having more kind of male characters as well to kind of balance it out in the series. I think it's nice to bring a little bit of balance to it.
I want a Plaid Stripes and the Tick crossover fan fiction. Make it happen.
Let's see. Another question that was asked here is What does everyone think about Spike so far this season and how he's been handled?
Spike is a dragon.
I think Spike's probably been really good on this particular season. I really loved how he came into his own on Gauntlet of Fire, but I also liked how he was, written in Crystalline. How, like, he not only is a an assistant to Twilight, but he's also readily available to assist Starlight as well, and was actually, willing to help her out in with the friendship lessons when Twilight was trying to instruct her to do these things, even though he was kind of going about it the wrong way, because he was trying to get Starlight to follow the list, although it was more like, okay, we got to do things our own way here. We don't really get to see a whole lot of Spike this season, I think. I think like the big issues he's had, aside from Crystalline and Gauntlet of Fire, was maybe helping a little bit out on Applejack's day off, and
I love that scene in Spice Up Your Life when they're around the map and he moves the chair so it's next to Rarity.
Yeah,
That's a Spike thing to do.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think all the episodes where he's appeared, Spike's been written really well. This
I love the
this
snark
season.
he has.
Yeah,
It's
and
brilliant.
he's really. I mean, the season opener really kind of showed how good he can be, kind of as a supporting character. And I just loved the way he worked off of Starlight was really fun to watch and really enjoyable through that entire episode, and how they kind of played off each other throughout that. And I really liked how they kind of paired both of them up to be in that side of the story for that episode. But then of course we get the gosh, I forget the name. The dragon, the freaking dragon episode. That's going to be the name of the episode, is the dragon episode. But that one really showed how well he can actually stand on his own. And I just loved that episode because it was a Spike episode, and it wasn't focusing, any part of it wasn't really focusing on him messing up at something. It was him trying his best and giving his all at something for the right reasons, and in the end succeeding. And I really liked seeing an episode devoted to him that wasn't him messing up and learning a lesson from it. And I've never really had a problem with Spike episodes like a lot of others do in the past, because I understand that a lot of the good character building can come from when the character fails at something and can learn from that. But it's nice to finally have a Spike episode where he is actually like very competent and he isn't failing at something, and he's in control of the more or less of the situation.
Rain Shadow's idea of episodes now is he thinks of Look Before Your Sleep as the sleepover over episodes, and he finds Applebuck season the Love at First Sight episode being the first episode about Applejack.
That was I'm horrible with names. I'm absolutely horrible with
Don't
names
worry,
in
I actually
IRL.
am too.
So, and there's so many freaking episodes of the series now. It's so easy to forget the names.
He's so terrible with
There's
names.
only 120 odd.
Yeah.
He's so terrible with names. He's so terrible with names. He calls Twilight. He calls Twilight Book Horse. Thank you for messing up the joke, Mike.
But the thing with Spike, I think a lot of time. I mean, you've said that, you like how he's been written as a secondary character. I don't think that's necessarily been an issue that people have had with Spike as a character. I think that's when he's worked at his best, and I think some of his best appearances have been in episodes such as Lesson Zero, and obviously the first Equestria Girls movie, particularly the first half of that movie. Spike was excellent in that, I feel. Regardless of how you feel with, he was made into a dog in that universe, that's a completely different kettle of fish. But as an actual character and as an assistant to Twilight, he was written absolutely superbly, in my opinion. what I find interesting with Gauntlet of Fire is I think this would be the first episode where he is the main sort of, he is the focus, but in the end, I would say the focus was almost equally as much on Princess Ember, because it's his story, but it's also a case of her seeing how friendship can become something that she can use, not necessarily use, but it's something that can benefit her and her race. And it's not something that should be necessarily frowned upon. What I find interesting with Gauntlet of Fire, everyone's saying, "Oh, it's the first Spike episode that's actually good," and I disagree with that, because I don't think there's been. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a case that it's an incorrect assumption that Spike episodes in general have sucked. There has been some issues with some episodes of Spike episodes, and a lot of it does seem to stem all the way back to Owl's Well that ends well. And a lot of people say that episode it's got a lot of issues and a lot of problems. Now, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think there is some issues with the episode. I think it's a poor first Spike episode. I will say that. I will agree with that very much. The problem is, though, is obviously at the time we only knew snippets of what Spike was like, only from other episodes. He never actually had like full. He was involved in scenes, but he didn't really necessarily have sort of scenes to himself, and I think that was obviously a difficult thing. And I think it's telling that his first episode was right towards the end of the first season of season 1 of the show. I think that does kind of show that they weren't necessarily completely at ease as to what sort of his position was going to be in the show at first. I don't think he was necessarily like a late addition. I think he was obviously something that was going to he was a character that was always planned from the very beginning. Because obviously the franchise itself has always had a Spike in some form, except for in My Little Pony Tales, because obviously that didn't have the fantastical element of dragons, so obviously there was no room for a Spike. But I don't know, the subsequent sort of Spike episodes, I would say that some of them have been good but have had issues, but I don't necessarily think that's necessarily with the character himself, but it's with like questions that they necessarily become unanswered. It's like what's the episode from season 2 where Secret of My Excess? I think that's an excellent Spike episode, but the problem with that episode is that it raises quite a lot of questions that never really truly get answered. Now, that's not a bad thing, because it's something that could be followed up in a subsequent episode, but I think the issue was that it didn't really get followed up that quickly, and some of it's sort of fallen by the wayside, which is not a problem. I mean, not everything's going to get answered. In a show, you've got to kind of make up your own mind on some things. But I think a lot of episodes that are spiking are quite underrated, and I think some people seem to have a very set view of what they want Spike to be, and I think it might actually have something to do with him being white, because for the longest time he was sort of one of the few recurring male characters outside of Big Mac. But to be fair, Big Mac doesn't really have a lot, really. I mean, until recently, Big Mac didn't really do a whole lot until Sister Who Social. Sister Who Social, and I don't know.
To be fair, it's kind of hard to like center dialogue around a character whose shtick is like largely being silent.
Yes, but the thing is, they have given him plenty of character, because around that, and obviously subsequently we have seen him speak a little more, so that's helped.
Another question here. What pony is your from Draconicus Media? What pony is your least favorite this season?
Zephyr Breeze.
Is that least favorite as a character, or just least favorite because he's such a dick?
Yes. also gonna have to say I don't really care for Zesty Gourmand either, and that's probably for the same reason, is that she's just mainly just a dick. Then again, with the thing with Zesty Gourmand and Zephyr Breeze is that, characterization aside, I will applaud the writers for those particular characters, because if there's a character that they write who you clearly dislike, but their whole purpose of them writing that character was for you to dislike them to begin with, then they've clearly done their job.
Really, I mean, I don't really. I'm trying to really think if there's anything that just really didn't, any characters that just really didn't stick out for me well. There's not really any. I mean, really, the only thing I could say was maybe Flurry Heart. But I mean, as I said when we discussed that episode, it's hard to really discuss her character or even really consider her much of a character, because it's not something you can easily impart character on. Like a newborn is not something you can easily impart some sort of character on beyond that she's magically crazy with power, because she's a baby Allegorn, so has this uncontrollable power. But I mean, for that episode, she's not really given much character because she's a baby, a newborn, new foal, and it's more just kind of used as the plot device for that episode. So, in that respect, I would probably say she would be like my weakest, kind of most forgettable character of the season. But really, I don't really think there's much they could have done to change that, just based on what she is. With Flurry Heart's going to be hard to really do many stories around where she isn't just being used as a plot device, unless she just magically grows up, because infants are just something you really can't do as a character unless you just utilize them like they did in the opener as a plot device.
And it's like you said. I mean, she's a baby. I mean, she's not exactly gonna start holding deep, meaningful conversations with her parents at her age. I mean, if she did, then obviously she's demon possessed and she needs to be exorcised. But
well, she's an Alcorn, and she automatically out of nowhere starts making a deep.
I'm just shooting my mouth off again. So don't mind me.
Then they tries her parents, and this is just a humor moment.
Let's see. What does everyone think about the new writers this season? If you look at the actual the episode list for this season here, it's almost like completely new writers. So the opener was written by Josh Haber, who was new for season 4. Then we have Gift of Maud Pie, and the Applejack's Day Off, which were written by Michael and Will Fox, new writers for this season. Joanne Lewis and Christine Songo wrote one episode. They're, for of course, new from last season, Gauntlet of Fire. Nick Conflone wrote 2 episodes, No Second Prances and Saddle Row Review. He was new last season. And then we have other new writers for this season. Newbie Dash, written by Dave Rapp. Heartswarming Tale and Spice Up Your Life, written by Mike Vogel. Flutterbrudder was also Dave Rapp. So that's I would say at least half of the episodes, maybe more so far this season, have been writers new this season. And all of the other episodes, with the exception of On Your Marks and the opener, were written by writers that were new last season. So really the only veterans were Josh Haber, who's only here since season 4, and Dave Polsky. Just a quick overview there. So what does everyone think about the writers so far this season?
For the whole writers, considering the fact that almost all of the writers that we've had for this season have been just completely brand new ones, they've done a remarkable job. I'm really applauding Mike Vogel, because I understand that he used to be the vice president of the everything as well, and he actually stepped down from the vice presidency to actually take a writing position. And the 2 episodes that he's written, especially Heartswarming tale have really been very strong episodes that he's done, and I really had to applaud that.
Yeah, I guess technically he's a new writer, but he's not new to the show since he's been involved since day one. So obviously he has a lot of background. But he stepped into that writer's role and really knocked both of his episodes out of the park.
Later, Matt.
Oh, see you, Matt. Good night.
No.
Yeah, I really don't know what he did with the vice president. I just know he was just vice president.
He was a VP. I think he was the VP of scripted entertainment at Hasbro.
Okay.
I'm something
Yeah, he was
something along those lines.
He was.
Vice president, everything.
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 I think he was the
I
vice
have to say,
president.
the Fox brothers also did a really
Studios.
good job as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just looking at a lot of the episodes were really character centric, and the new Day Rap and the Fox brothers really just, I think in all those episodes, I mean, look at Newbie Dash and look at the Maud Pie episode, and just they really took those characters and wrote them like they had been writing those characters since their introduction.
It's kind of interesting that each of the new writers had at least 2 episodes each thus far. I'm kind of curious as to what the second half's going to have.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, most of the new writers have doubled up on 2 episodes, and then like the veteran writer, like Dave Polsky had 1 episode, although he was credit for story on Newbie Dash, I believe, and Joe and Christine had 1 episode. So definitely mixing things up this season with new writers, which I like, because it does provide new perspective on the show and maybe new ideas, versus some of the older more veteran writers for the series. So it'd be interesting to see if any new ones come back. I know that the writer for the freaking Scootaloo episode has flight in the name.
Flight
to the Finish. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Ed Valentine, the writer of that episode, said he has a couple episodes that he wrote for the season. So they must be in the second half. So it'll be interesting to see if the second half will have maybe some switched up and have some other writers who haven't shown their faces this season yet.
Kind of makes me wonder if we're gonna have any older writers come back. I mean, I know a few of the people like M.A. Larson and Amy Keating Rogers are no longer on the staff, but I'm kind of curious if we're gonna be seeing any veterans come back to do any episodes.
Another question here from Draconicus Media is, do you think Flurry Heart will have a greater role in the show's future?
Personally, I don't think so. At least not in any major roles. We're probably going to see, more cameos, especially if like Cadence and Shining Armor come back. Then I'm thinking Flurry Heart's probably going to be more relegated to a cameo role, kind of like how the Cake Babies are with Mr. and Mrs. Cake. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I will say that just in response to that, Josh Haber is the story editor this season. Megan McCurdy actually hasn't really had any involvement, with the exception of a story credit in Flutterbrudder, which I really think is just because that episode has been kind of sitting on the table for a while, and she probably originally pitched the premise for that episode, but it just wasn't produced until this season. I don't think she's had really, besides that, I don't think she's really had any involvement other than being the head of, she's now the head of, I don't know if it's just specifically girls or head of all kind of toy entertainment for Hasbro now. So she still kind of oversees stuff, but other than that, she hasn't had much involvement this season.
Is J.E. Smith's mic still kind of on the fritz? I haven't been hearing him speak for a long time.
I said so. I mentioned Flight to the Finish.
Yeah. I've heard. I've been able to hear him.
Okay, because I don't on my end.
You can't hear him talking?
No.
Jay, say something again.
Hello.
You can't hear him?
Did you hear me?
Hang on, let me try backing out of the Hangouts and.
That's really
try
weird because I
joining
mean
back in.
he can obviously hear me. I don't know why he can't hear you.
Right. Give me one moment.
Okay. Personally, while Mr. Ben is doing that, I will say that I don't think we're going to see much of Flurry Hart have a significant role. I mean, I guess we'll see in terms of her being a character. Like I said, we'll probably see her used again, potentially maybe in the season finale, you know, being that they usually set up stuff in the premiere for the finale. So we might see her have a role again in the season finale. But it won't be really, I don't think it's not going to be anything more. It can't really be anything more than just a plot device kind of use, like they had her create the whole, you know, destroying the Crystal Heart in the opener. So I can't really, you know, see any more than her being some sort of plot device or you know, something like that that's going to get a story going. But being that, like I said, because she's an infant, a newborn, you know, there's only so much you can do with that.
All right, I can hear now.
Yeah.
Just load.
And the only other thing.
Whoa. I am getting some weird. Everyone's mics are really breaking up.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Huh.
Okay, both of you are coming clear, still on my end.
Wow. You're both really breaking up. I don't know if it's like that way on the stream or not, but it's.
Let me try and hang back out again.
Let me try it. Let me do that too.
Okay, no, now I can hear you, J.E. I hear you okay now.
That's strange. Like, the only other thing they could do with Flurry Hart is like some weird babysitter episode. But then again, they've already done that with Baby Cake. So if they did that, it'd pretty much be with Baby Cakes with an alicorn.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. How do I sound?
Yeah, Mr. Ben, you're still really. I don't know what's wrong. Hey, J.E., can you say something? Let me disconnect. That's really weird because, like, I can hear J.E. fine, but as soon as Mr. Ben comes back in the chat, both of you, your mics start, like, cutting in and out.
That's weird.
Let me see.
Okay, cool.
Okay, try to say something now.
Higgity biggity bump.
Okay, now it's fine. I don't know. That was weird.
Something.
Okay. So let's hopefully everyone. Can everyone still see the stream? Please say yes in chat if you can see and hear us now.
I can see the stream.
Should be hopefully we're okay. Some weird was going on with Hangouts there. That was really weird because Mr. Ben, as soon as you left, I could hear J.E. perfectly, but when you came back in, both of you started getting really choppy. But now it's fine. So gotta love technology.
I took the words right. I said the exact same thing after you left.
Okay, so
Technology, gotta love it.
It looks like we're good, everyone. So yeah, okay, yeah, we're capturing that. Good. Next question. This is kind of a big one, so I'm going to put it out there. What does everyone think? What does everyone think about Starlight so far this season and how she's been utilized?
Kind of wish she had a bigger role, to be honest with you. I mean, considering the fact that we had the part of Starlight just sort of being the sort of seventh member, if you will. It's kind of a little disheartening to see that, okay, yeah, she's apparently part of the group, but she's still not part of the group. I mean, we've maybe seen her all of, like, what, 3 times?
But I think you're kind of missing the point of the first episode and No Second Prances, where Twilight was going to let her kind of do stuff on her own, like Celestia did stuff on her own. And I think I think that kind of plays into kind of what's happening, and I kind of like it like that because.
Well, let me revise then. I would kind of like to see kind of more episodes, a little bit more, kind of like No Second Prances, where, yeah, it's mainly not just focusing on Starlight's interaction with the rest of the main 6, but just more, focus a little bit on her and her development in regards to her character. I mean, I suppose we still got, the second half.
We did get. I mean, out of 12 episodes, we had 4 that were focused on Starlight. So I mean.
That's true.
Without overtaking the I hope we get more. Don't get me wrong, but without her completely overtaking the season.
Yeah, that's true because we got both parts of the Crystalling. We've had No Second Prances and Heartswarming Tale. So yeah, I suppose you're right on that. Yeah. I mean, 4 episodes. I mean, that's what, almost a quarter of what we've got thus far. No, it is a quarter because that's
a third. That's a third.
That's right. The third. Mr. Ben can't math.
Math is hard.
5 of you counter voiceless cat Emil at the end of Spies Alive, or all she did was reactivate the map.
True, but I didn't count that because she didn't even talk. But it was nice seeing her at least playing a part and doing that. Where Twilight couldn't do it on her own, and she got Starlight's help. So that was a nice little thing, even if it wasn't much. I don't know. Personally, I kind of like the way they're handling it because I mean that was kind of the big question that everyone had at the end of last season was kind of what's Starlight's role going to be? Do we have a main 7 now? Is she always going to be there? Is she officially part of the group now? And they kind of made it so she sort of is. She pseudo is, but she's not in every episode. But then again, neither are the main 6 are anyway. They're not all going to be in every episode either. So I mean, they kind of made her a part, but at the same time, they let her, like I said, they let her kind of have Twilight want to have her find her own way, and we kind of get to see that in the premiere and also in her episode No Second Prances, where Twilight kind of has to find out, she kind of wants to do this like Celestia did, and kind of let her find her own friends and kind of find her own way. And I like this because it allows Starlight to still be a part of the group, and we still see her in multiple episodes with the main 6. But at the same time, it makes it nice because they don't have to have her there with the main 6. It provides a reasonable excuse why the main 6 might be doing something in the show, but she might not be there because she might be doing stuff on her own or making her own friends or something like that. So they don't have to try and shoehorn her into anything that the main 6 are doing, which I think is nice. But then she also had some really great episodes with her at the center this season. With the 2-part premiere and No Second Prances and Heartswarming Tale were all three of the best episodes of the season in my opinion, and very much focused on her and her character, very specifically giving her in those 3 episodes pretty much the starring role. So even if she isn't with the main 6 in every episode, she has taken that kind of front and center thing really nicely in the episode that she's been in.
And we lost Jade.
Oh, good. I thought maybe I lost both of you for a second. I'm like, oh no. But I'm really interested to see where they take her in the rest of the season, especially into the the season finale, which I'm sure she'll have some major involvement in, whatever that winds up being. But she just had some really great episodes. I really like No Second Prances and how they're exploring her redemption farther in that, and pairing her with Trixie and kind of giving Trixie kind of a more of a well-rounded redemption, where she didn't really get redeemed in the last episode where we saw her, but here we see her also kind of get redeemed and get some closure on her character and her kind of relationship with Twilight. So that was really cool. And of course, A Heartwarming Tale was great, being that the whole thing was pretty much a story that with Starlight in the starring role, but allowed us to see her kind of evil, nefarious side again, even though she's redeemed, being that she's playing a character in the show. And then also nice seeing how that story that they're telling there in A Heartwarming Tale also mirrors Starlight's actual story that happened throughout her life. So I think they've handled it really well, and I really hope we get more episodes with her playing a big part, with her in the main six in the future, because I really do like Starlight, and I'm sorry, but you're more than welcome to not like Starlight, but if you're not going to even watch an episode because she's in it, you're acting ridiculous. You're acting ridiculous, and you need to mature up a little bit, because you got to get she's in the show now, and she's redeemed. It's time to, take a breath and get over it. Yep, and she's progressing the same way as Twilight did. And again, I like that mirroring of, Twilight kind of allowing her to do her own thing and learn her own lessons. Because not only does it mirrors the how Celestia taught her, and it kind of gives that in-show confirmation of that's kind of what Celestia was doing, where she was she wasn't just not telling Twilight to go do stuff and then just going and sipping a cup of coffee. She was letting Twilight figure things out on her own, and watching over her, but at the same time letting her deal with problems, letting her find her own friends, and trusting her to be able to do that, which kind of where the whole story of No Second Princes comes with, trust and trusting your friends. If I haven't asked your question, if you're posting questions and I haven't asked them yet, it's because I probably already have them on my list. So we'll get to them. How does everyone think? How does everyone think Josh Haber has been doing as the series' new story editor, taking over for Megan McCarthy and M.A. Larson after last season? And how do you think he and the new directors, with Big Jim taking the helm, and having Denny Liu and Tim Stubby also, I believe Tim Stubby was the other one, directing the show now? How do you think they're all doing in terms of constructing the season so far, overall?
Truth be told, I've never really paid much attention to the actual story editors and that sort of thing. I just watch the episodes for the episodes themselves mainly. I don't really think most of the time on the only time I've ever really thought about relation to the season arc or story arc was when we've actually discussed it here on Triple E. But as far as the actual episodes, as far as this is a general topic, I've never really thought about it that much. I'm just gonna say that he's been doing a great job thus far. I haven't had any issues with anything.
Yeah, he's kind of gone back a little bit away. I would say back to a little bit away from the whole story arc thing for the season. The past couple seasons, we've gotten a little bit of a story arc. Season 4 with the keys, and last season we had the story arc. Well, both with the whole cutie mark magic, but also then with the map as well. We haven't had much of a story arc. We've had the season theme of exploring Equestria, and we've seen a lot, but that's not really a story arc. All the episodes so far have been more character arcs, and not just character arcs for this season. We had a couple episodes with Starlight and showing her progression arcing over this season, and we've had other things that have concluded or continued character arcs from past season, like Rainbow Dash finally becoming a member of the Wonderbolt and closing out one of her arcs and one of her main goals from the series, and being able to join the Wonderbolts. and then the CMC kind of finding their their way of having their cutie marks now and what to be able to do next. And we've thrown more slice of life, like I said, when we did the review for Applejack's Day Off. That was one of the most kind of slice of life, simple, what's the word I'm looking for? Not uneventful, but just like in terms of the series as a whole, it was not that impactful on the series. It was just, just like a lot of episodes in season 1 and season 2 where they were really self-contained stories, and just showing character, maybe a little bit of character development and showing interactions between characters. So we've kind of had a little bit more, he's brought a little bit more of that back as well with a couple of the episodes. So far, I think they've all been doing a great job picking up where some of the veteran of the series was. I mean, it's kind of funny just seeing Josh, and being that Josh was of course new for season 4, so he hasn't been on the show for that long. But just seeing his interactions in like the DVD commentary of Friendship Games and online. I mean, he definitely really does like the show, and he has a really good knowledge of the show. And I think his job in Friendship, I really like Friendship Games, and he did a great job. But I think his work on the season finale of season 5 really, for me at least, solidified that he was probably the best story editor candidate of the staff that hadn't already moved on, either Larson or obviously Larson and Amy Keating Rogers would be good choices, but since they've left and Megan's working on the movie now, I really do think that's the best choice. I mean, just look at that finale and just how much throwbacks and callbacks and how many characters were that, and how it used the whole series continuity to kind of tie that episode together and hold that episode together. And so he obviously really knows and understands the series. So I think he's done a great job, and especially with all these new writers, and we keep talking about how great all these, how great a lot of these new writers are and their episodes are. And I think a lot of that probably comes back to Josh Haber and, being able to lead that writing team, to write these stories and make sure they're familiar with the characters in the show and whatnot. So I think he's, done a great job, especially with all these, like I said, just all these new writers. I mean, that's probably more new writers in a half of a season than we've ever had in the show. So, yeah, I think he's done a good job, as well as the directors. It's these are all kind of jobs that are a little bit more behind the scenes, but I think nothing major has felt like changed for the show for the worst or anything. So if anything, they're just bringing some new perspectives. Yeah, if you haven't listened to the DVD commentary of the Friendship Games, you really need to, because it's hilarious, and it's really fun watching them poke fun at themselves. They poke fun at themselves a lot, and it's great. It's always nice that none of them really seem too, full of themselves or taking themselves too seriously or anything. What did everyone think of the it was probably going to be a question for me to ramble, but I'll just kind of pose this to everyone here and everyone in the chat. I guess, what do you all think of the music so far this season, both in the songs and of the score?
It's good.
Wonderful.
Of course, the first half of last season we didn't have the musical number this early in the season. This season we got it a little earlier. The musical episode, I should say. It was really good. I mean, we got quite a few songs over the 12 episodes already, because we've got the Apple Bloom's kind of sad song in her episode earlier. We got the song from last week, which has that kind of Indian kind of world feel to it, which was a new type of song for this series, and it was really cool seeing them kind of branch out to other different song types. And then is there another song I'm forgetting, or was it just the musical? I feel like I'm forgetting something, but it might just because I'm slightly hungry. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I knew there was a song. I knew there was a song in Flutter Brother. I just couldn't remember the name. Yeah, and of course we got the song in the at the end of Flutter Brother as well. But of course, just the musical episode, just this season, just the Heartwarming Tale just really blew. I think just really blew a lot of stuff out of the park. It's just the quality of that episode musically, and being able to have like the actual live instruments for the Pinkie Pie song there was really cool. And of course, that's the first thing everyone's gonna say is the Luna song, because that was just so on another level from the songs of this that are normally in the show. Musically, we've also got a lot of diverse things musically in the score, whether it be like the really Indian score from last week's episode, hearing more of that. More kind of a diverse thing for the score there, and of course like the score for the opener and the callbacks that it had to the season 3 opener, and its score being that we're back in the Crystal Empire and dealing with kind of a similar threat and situation there with the Crystal Heart, and then episodes like the Gauntlet of Fire episode with its really epic, for lack of a better word, epic music that it has throughout there was really amazing. I think that's some of the best score of the season so far in that episode. And of course, we've kind of not so much the past few episodes, but the first kind of half of the season, we got all that music in the credits too, which really highlighted some of the really great music from the first half of this half of the season. And a lot of jazz too. I mean, from like the Tender Taps thing to the Pinky's song to some of the music in Saddle Row and Wreck, and some of the other episodes too. A lot of jazz making its way into the show, which I really like after having some of it last season.
So I noticed that we've been getting some additional branching out of different styles as well, especially with the last episode we've seen with whatchamacallit, Spice of Your Life.
Yeah, the Indian music.
Yeah, that sitar was just still sends shivers up my spine. I honestly have to admit that for the first few episodes, when we got like the new credits music, I was kind of thinking that this was going to be like a theme that we're going to be getting like throughout the entire season, where like we're not going to hear like the regular credits music. It's just going to be they just totally retired it. But then it came back, so I was like, oh, well, okay then.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with the type of episodes, because in the second half of the season, there was a lot of the episodes either were more slice of life, and so they didn't have as much musical content in them because of that. So I think a lot of the episodes in the second half of the season, there just wasn't really much of anything to put in the credits, because it's either stuff like when we had the montage scene in Applejack's Day Off. I mean, that's something they could have put in the credits, but that particular musical thing already appeared 2 times in the episode and once at the end, so it would be kind of repetitive too. So I think there's a lot of things like that where there either wasn't anything substantial that would have made sense to put in the credits, or it just was something that had already been used and would have been too repetitive to put in the credits. So hopefully we get some more stuff in the credits in the second half. So that was always enjoyable. Let's see. Just kind of going through all the questions here to see what other people have asked. Very hard. So so this is a question that Matt had for me. So I should have asked it before he left, but it's kind of delving into like looking to the future here. So I wanted to save it closer to the end. Season 6 has had a number of interesting moments for each character, but has felt less of a narrative or overarching theme for the entire season. We've had what he calls bits and bobs. An episode detailing a character here, a follow-up story there, and in one cutie map episode. Do you think that we'll continue in that vein for the second half of season 6, or will we start to have some sort of overarching arc become more established in the second half?
I think we're probably going to be having more like what we're doing this time, because I'm looking in on the second half, and there's a couple of episode titles on here. I don't want to say any of them because I don't want to, potentially do any spoilers on here. But just from looking at the episode titles, I'm kind of led to the thought that we're not really going to have any sort of real true overarching plot or story or anything for the second half. We might get to see a more sort of adherence to the overarching idea of Explore Equestria, maybe a little bit with a couple of these, but I don't think we're going to get any sort of specific story arc over the next 12, 13 episodes.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I think that it'll be kind of like we'll have, obviously I think the finale will have something to do with the premiere and kind of like that kind of normal arc that the show has always had. But I really think the only other kind of like cohesiveness that I see coming in the second half will just be hopefully more map episodes and more episodes dealing with like you said with the Explore Equestria, and hopefully it's like exploring new lands as well. And I do want to say for everyone in the chat, please, the next few questions are probably going to be deal with future things. Please don't spoil anything. We're just kind of looking for what everyone thinks, or wants to happen, not what's going to be. Like, obviously there was an episode list that leaked, so please don't spoil anything from that. For anyone who doesn't want to be spoiled, just in the next few questions here, because we're kind of getting into second half of the season stuff coming up here. So, here's another one from Draconicus Media. What races would you like to see in MLP?
I would love to see hippogriffs. Possible comment, the possible cross combo of a griffin and a pony. That would be kind of interesting to see. I
want to see more of the Saddle Arabians too, because we've already seen them in the show. So I'd like to see that kind of more expanded upon.
Yeah, sorry for jumping the gun a little bit on that one, but I saw that question in the question chat, and I've been kind of wanting to answer that one.
No, that's fine. I've been holding off a lot of this stuff in the chat until the end here when we start talking about future stuff.
So, I would, in terms of existing races, I would really like to see more dragons. I would like to really see kind of, more of Princess Ember again on that. But in terms of like brand new races, I would definitely like to see, like I said, the hippogriffs. I would like to maybe see more actual griffins, actually. I would like to maybe see a return to Griffinstone, if at all possible.
That kind of leads into the next question that I had. It's just more of a broad question. What do you want to see from the second half of the season? Are like in general, what do you want to see? Are there any episodes that you'd like them to follow up upon? That maybe episodes that were in the first half and you want to see them followed up upon in the second half? Any characters, any situation or concepts, or setting up for the movie maybe? What would you like to see from the second half of the season?
Pretty much just like I said, I like to see a return to the Dragonlands. I would like to see a return to Griffinstone. I would like to maybe see more world building, kind of like what we did with Heartwarming Tale. I would definitely, you know what I would almost practically kill to have? I would love to see an episode starring Celestia and Luna, and kind of an episode focusing on their relation. Just having them being together, just sort of showing kind of like a sisterly thing. Maybe even like Celestia having to go off somewhere and Luna having to try to take over the day shift for Celestia and Craner a lot. Something like that. I would love to see something like that, if at all possible.
Yeah, I think that's probably the one thing I've wanted to see for a while, is maybe not even just Celestia and Luna, although I'd love to see that. Just an episode that focuses on Celestia, because we've seen a lot of Luna in the show the past couple of seasons. It explored her past a lot, and had her help like the CMC and stuff. But we really just haven't had much of Celestia at all in the show, other than obviously being the mentor to Twilight. And there's reasons for that, which I can understand, especially in the first seasons of the show. But now I think we're really ready that I think we can expand the characters we're focused on. They have been expanding the characters that they're focusing on, and I'd really like to see something more with Celestia and see more of her, because we get little hints of it the past couple of seasons, like in Make New Friends and Keep Discord, or in the No Second Prances in this season, where they're at the when Twilight's kind of having that dinner, and Celestia's just having none of that, especially like at the little stinger they have at the end of that episode. And so we've gotten like hints of her personality that is different from her just princessy personality that she normally has, and I'd love to see that her character explored and expanded upon more. Agreed.
Because a lot of times we've seen Celestia basically just her wearing the queenly mask, and it's kind of we need to see a deeper vision of the actual character she truly is. Because I think like the only real 2 episodes we've seen on that where she's kind of not been like the poised princess that we've really seen her was the time with the episode with the Smooze, where she was kind of laughing at Discord's jokes, especially when he was kind of making jabs at Twilight. And like you said right there at the end of No Second Prances, where she's just sort of she doesn't even say anything. She doesn't have to. The expression on her face just says everything.
And also on the part of the whole thing you were talking about earlier with an episode with showing Luna and Celestia and kind of their sisterly relationship, we kind of got a hint of that in episode 100 when they were interacting at the wedding, and that was just so freaking enjoyable seeing them kind of argue about like whose turn it was to bring the present. So I would love to see more stuff like that too. I would normal day, every day in the lives of Celestia and Luna.
I could just imagine like an episode of the 2 of them just kind of acting like the Odd Couple or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
like one sister just does something that just irritates the other.
So I mean, there's so much more potential for stories in this show, and that's definitely one of the highest things on my list in terms of potential. I guess I'd love to see. The only other things I'd love to see more would be, obviously, I want to see more locations outside of the locations we've already seen. The first half of the season's done a good job of expanding locations that we've already been to before, and so I'd love to see actually explore more new locations for the series, and new cultures and new characters in that respect. And of course, I really hope they show us more of Starlight trying to, make other new friends. Maybe she finds, maybe in a future episode she could find a new character, she's already had an episode with her making friends with Sunburst and making friends with Trixie. Maybe she finds a new character that's having trouble, and can become friends with them or something like that. I'd love to see more stuff with her building her kind of her own little main 6. Apart from Twilight and her friends. I'm also kind of interested to see if they will set up for do anything to set up for the movie at all. I guess it kind of depends on if this will be the last season before the movie, or if they're cramming another season in between or not. But it'd be interesting to see if there's any carryover, or anything. I'm assuming not much, if any, because they probably want to have the movie stand on its own, because they want to make sure that maybe people who aren't as familiar with the show can still go there and watch it and understand it. But it'd be interesting to see if they do set up anything for that in the show, and also if there's any more crossover between the main show and the new Equestria Girls movie, like there was with the last one. Let's see. Let me go back through the questions here. See if there's anything we missed. Is there anything more specifically that you would like to see? Anyone would like to see with Starlight in the rest of the season?
Maybe a quick return to like her old self or something like that. Just kind of like actually following through on like trying to enslave the Ponyville or something like that. And then like Twilight just comes up and like smacks her with a newspaper or something.
Actually,
No,
no,
bad Starlight.
That does give me an idea, though, in terms of returning characters or follow-up. I'd love to see the characters from the season 5 premiere from that Equal Town again.
Oh yeah,
In some form, either what they're doing or I'd love to see them again and kind of have Starlight do something with them. Maybe have an episode where they're having some issues or something, and she comes back and actually helps them, or I don't know. But it would be nice to see them again.
the main cast gets captured or something, and Starlight goes and gets her other 4 friends from the town, and they wind up being like a 5-mayor band or something like that.
Actually, you're right. There was 4 main ones of them then. Add in Sunburst and add in Trixie, and I guess they already kind of have a main. I guess this really so much isn't a question, because there's not really much to discuss. But I definitely interesting to see if anything comes from that changeling that we saw in the beginning of the season. So obviously that they had that little that shot at the end where you kind of just barely see it flying to the Crystal Empire. So I'm definitely interested to see if that was just kind of if that's setting up for anything or not. I know someone else had posted in there. Do you think that the extra Pinkie Pie was a clone or a changeling in the
Actually,
in
I think
episode? And that's a good question.
I think that's actually Equestria Girl's Pinkie, just sort of like going in through the portal and just sort of.
There's many possibilities. That's the crazy thing, is that there's like 3 different possibilities. It could either been a clone, it could have been the Equestria Girl's Pinkie, or it could have been a changeling. And that just says something about how crazy the show can be.
It could be any aforementioned of the 3 too.
Yeah.
A changeling clone that came from Equestria Girls. I have no idea.
Yes.
You know, speaking of that, I just noticed Waterstar's mention in the chat room there. I wouldn't actually mind seeing a return of T-Rex. Come to think of it, now that he or she reminds me. Now that Waterstar reminds me of it, I apologize if I get your gender mixed up. I don't mean to offend or anything like that. This is exactly the reason why I have Mister in my name, actually. But anyway, getting off of that there. I would like to see the return, not just a return of T-Rex, but I would really like to see Scorpion maybe make an official appearance. Maybe see kind of like
yes.
Kind of like maybe to see sort of whatchamacallit, maybe a depiction of their homeland. Maybe see anything of get some more of that out of there. But I would definitely like to see Scorpion, because I know we saw like his design in like a flashback with him chatting with, what was it, Star Sorrel the Bearded, but we didn't actually see him truly proper in the show itself. And it would really be nice to see him. And we lost Jay again. and it's actually kind of quiet on this side. I don't hear anybody.
Sorry,
Oh.
I had to run away for a second.
No, not a problem. Not a problem. Okay, I was just thinking to myself, okay, we lost JE,
And then
but
there was just Mr. Ben.
and then there was one. Yes. Well, see, that's the thing. I noticed that funny that you mentioned the MLP comic because I know we did get that was covered in the actual comics, but the comics are only like so much in regards to like supplementary canon. It would actually be nice to see them in the actual canon.
Ooh, we should do some sort of Triple E comic episode during the hiatus. It's a good idea. I have to really catch up on them then because I'm so I haven't read them for
Same
months.
here. I haven't read them for
Might just have to be a general discussion.
yeah. From what I understand, the MLP comics haven't really been all that great in the recent times, but
Will we do something like with BWB and do the readings or just discuss it?
Probably just discuss it.
Yeah, okay. Because with BWB we only got to like what, the second arc?
I
Or
think so.
BWB court before BWB went on hiatus.
Wow, it's sunny outside. I was not expecting that loud thing of thunder. Scared the shit out of me. I'm just kind of looking through all the questions here in the question chat. If anyone has any more questions, please put them in there now. This is the last call for questions. I think that's all. We've gotten through all the questions there right now. Gosh, I think I've gotten through all the questions that I had for it. I guess last call for questions. Yeah. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to the second half of the season. I've enjoyed this one so far.
Here's a question: is Rarity really made of marshmallow since she melts so easily?
I think the answer was. I think that question was answered this season.
Yes, it was. We went through all season 6 recap. We didn't mention melting Rarity yet.
And I think overall, I really enjoyed the first half of the season, and really, I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of episodes that, for one reason or another, get a lot of bile directed towards them. But none of them were really. I don't think really any of them were that bad. Maybe one or two were a little more simple or forgettable. But I think all of them were written really well. The characters were written well. Even though I saw a few instances of it online for a few specific things, I haven't seen as many people saying that characters were out of character this season as I have in past seasons. Past 2 seasons where it seems like every other episode there would just be this big backlash of people saying, "Oh, those characters were out of character." So I think they've been really doing a really good job with that this season. I believe we've already asked for favorite characters. We've already asked that particular question earlier. I remember I said Sunburst.
And Ben's favorite was Spice Mix.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Seriously, that's what her name really means. Saffron is a spice, and
Masala is a spice mix, yeah.
Masala is a spice mix. So.
Yeah. Spicy spice mix.
Spice up your name.
I was going to mention that last week, but
So, any final thoughts from anyone? Any final things about anything for the first half of the season, or anything you're looking forward to? Any final words from everyone?
Don't be a dick!
Because we got to say it somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta shove the running gag in there somewhere.
I was expecting you didn't do it earlier when you were talking about Zephyr and Zesty. That would have been a prime spot.
Eh.
See, season has been solid so far. So yeah.
Yep. Which background character was your favorite? I don't know. I mean, to be truthful, we haven't had many background characters in this. I mean, we've had a lot of new characters, and a lot of characters take the spotlight, but I felt like in most episodes, characters were pretty much, front and center. It wasn't like some new character introduced in the background just for a brief second. I should kick you. I should kick you. I really should.
My favorite background
I don't feel
character.
like wasting my energy typing.
It's kind of a joke, but my favorite background character, Char Grill Breadwinner. just for the name alone.
Yeah. I really like the I really like the Cookie Pony from last week's episode. She has the same hair as that Baker Pony from Legends of Equestria. Well, with that, I think I've gone through all the questions, so hopefully we've had a pretty good discussion this week on season 6. So hopefully it won't be more than a couple months, and we'll be able to start talking about the rest of season 6 here. Until then, we'll still be doing Triple E. We'll still have a lot of stuff coming up. We'll probably do some off-topic discussions or discussions on other more general topics unrelated to specific episodes. Next week we'll actually be taking a week off. Got some scheduling conflicts, so we will not be having a Triple E next week.
Oh, thank goodness! I'm actually working next week from 3
Yay.
to 11 again on Tuesday.
Yeah, and I'm working too. So,
Assuming my boss doesn't change anything on me again.
oh, I'm sure he will.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, so we won't be having a Triple E next week. It'd be nice to have a little week off anyway at the end of season. Now that we're done with the first half of season 6 here, but the week after that, we will be getting to Magical Mystery Cure finally. So on the 5th, I believe, of July.
Discussion everyone was waiting for.
Yeah, we'll be finally getting to Magical Mystery Cure. And after that, we'll probably talk about the first Equestria Girls movie. Might switch around, but I think we're going to talk about that next. And then we'll probably have a few Triple E episodes. We'll have to decide what topics we want to discuss, but we'll probably discuss a few other things before we start Season 4, because I don't want to start Season 4 right away. We'll talk about a few other things while we're in a hiatus, and then we'll get to talking about Season 4. So, no Triple E next week, but we will see you the week after that for Magical Mystery Cure. I have a lot to talk about, obviously, in that episode, so didn't want to try and cram that in next week with Wander's finale as well. So we'll have a nice little marathon of Wander before the final episode of that next week. So see you in 2 weeks for the next Triple E then.